Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors agenda meeting for November 27th, 2018. We are here today to set the agenda for our upcoming meeting on December 3rd. And with that said, let's go ahead and do our presentations. Let me call on our Vice Mayor, Kathy Webb, to recognize some student athletes from Catholic High.
Thank you, Mayor Stodla, members of the board, city manager, and guests. On October 9th, 2018, Catholic High Rockets won the boys 6A tennis team championship. It's their fourth consecutive state championship and their 19th tennis state championship overall. They've won more tennis state championships than any other Little Rock school. 4 members of the team, and I'm going to ask the team to come on up here in just a moment, were named to the 2018 Tennis All-State team: Harrison Cook, Jackson Davis, Henry Nolan, and Stephen Weeks. All 4 were also All-State in 2017. Jackson was All-State in 2016, while Henry and Stephen have been All-State for 4 years, starting in 2015. The gentlemen are coached by Tim Glancy. Steve Stracely is the principal, and Tim Ezzy is the athletic director. So if I could get the team and the coach to come on up. And after we do this plaque, if y'all will stay up here, because we've got a couple more plaques. So the plaque says, Mayor Mark Stodla, the City Board of Directors, and City Manager Bruce Moore congratulate the Little Rock Catholic High 6A boys tennis state champions. In the quest for the championship, the players and coaches exemplified outstanding sportsmanship, participation, leadership, responsibility, and teamwork. So if we could get a nice picture here. And
Come on, guys.
Okay, let's line up.
Susan. Alex, in front. I get right here.
Don't go away. Okay. The doubles team of Henry Nolan and Stephen Weeks captured the 6A boys doubles championship. It's their 4th consecutive year to win the state championship. They defeated teams from Bentonville, Rogers, and Little Rock Central. They won all their sets and matches in the state tournament.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I can group these over here.
Yeah, you can group
I was going to presume to group them, but that's okay. Okay.
because we do planning first, and then we have separate.
Okay. All right. Okay.
After winning the 6A state championship, Henry and Stephen were not through. On October 16th at Burns Park, they won the overall state tennis championship, defeating a team from Jonesboro. They defeated a team from Bergman and from Little Rock Central to get to the finals. It's the 3rd year that Henry and Stephen have won the overall boys double state championship. And to put this achievement in perspective, there have been 46 other tennis players in the overall doubles championship over these last 3 years. So, got another plaque for you all.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, one more picture. And then if we could, if all of the players would introduce themselves, and if you're a senior and you know where you're going to school, if you would tell us where you're going to school. And Coach, if you want to say a couple of words, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Hello, I'm Henry Nolan, and I am a senior, and I'm planning on attending Dartmouth College next year.
Hi, I am Steven. I'm a senior, and I'm planning on either attending Arkansas or TCU next year.
I'm Thomas Allen, and I don't know where I'm going yet. I'm Davis Foltz, and I'm a senior, and I plan on attending the University of Arkansas.
I'm Jonathan Hart, and I'm a junior, so I don't really know where I'm going.
I'm Jackson Davis. I'm a junior, and I do not know where I am attending college.
I'm Wallace Allen, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Collier Allison, and I'm a sophomore too.
I'm Harrison Cook, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Andrew Dean, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Luke Strand, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Alex Wells, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Tommy Nolan, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Rhodes Roberts, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Charlie Henry, and I'm a freshman.
Coach?
I'm Coach Tim Glancy, and I've had the privilege of coaching, especially the seniors here for 4 years. We want to thank the city board. We want to start the mayor. We appreciate you doing for this. They're a very good group, very fine young men that have always been disciplined on the courts and off the courts, and I think they represent our city very well. And I'm very proud to have coached them. Again, 4 state titles, 4 conference titles, and for Henry and Stephen, 3 state overall is just an outstanding accomplishment for these young men and how dedicated their parents are, their pros are, our school is to them, and we appreciate y'all having us here tonight. Thank you so much.
Well, Coach, thank you so much. And do we have any parents here with them?
Any parent?
Yeah, if you stand up and wave to us. All right. Well, thank you for what you've done as well. Coach, I didn't hear many juniors say that they were on the team. Do we have juniors coming up?
We have some
Couple?
juniors. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And they were in the semifinals in the state and quarterfinals. So
Wonderful.
got a good group coming up.
Good. We look forward to seeing you repeat next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we now have a presentation about the upcoming Big Jingle Jubilee Holiday Parade. Angela and Diana and Libby and whoever else we got up there.
Not quite the contingency that Catholic brought, but this is what we have.
The dynamic duo, right?
That's right.
Well, Mayor, City Board Directors, thank you for having us today. I'm Libby Lloyd, the Communications Manager for the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau. And it is that time of year again, the annual Big Jingle Jubilee Holiday Parade, which is always a mouthful, so if we can get it right, we're doing great. It is this Saturday, December 1st. Just as always, the parade will start at 3 o'clock at 2nd and Broadway. And as in previous years, we would love to invite all of you to participate in the parade by riding in a vintage fire truck. This year's fire truck is a little bit different, but it is vintage and it is lovely. And so we would encourage you to please participate, and you can show up around 2:30, 2:45 at 2nd and Broadway to load the truck and wave at everyone. And I think that you are in store for a wonderful treat this year, and Diana will go into more detail. But this year, for the very first time ever, Little Rock will be hosting 2 of Santa Claus's live reindeer who will serve as the grand marshals for the parade. So, without further ado, Diana.
I am so excited. We have live reindeer coming to Little Rock, and I cannot find anywhere since the internet where this has happened. So I feel like I've turned into a child, and I fully expect that all of the children and the adults at the parade will also be as full of glee as I am over having the experience of seeing live reindeer on a really cool Polar Express float that we're working on. So this should just be a great fun way to lead the parade. And if you don't get enough of the holiday spirit on that day, we are hosting a meet and greet with our reindeer called Reindeer on the River. That is Sunday, December 2nd from noon until 5 p.m. That's at the River Market Pavilions. In addition to having the reindeer there, we've got a sleigh where we've got a really good little picture area that you can put the family in front of, kind of make next year's postcard or to post on your social. But we also have 7 other activities that we've planned for families to be able to do while they're there. And that includes writing your letters to Santa that the reindeer will take back to the North Pole. That includes some really cute holiday arts and crafts, an edible art and craft. We're going to make reindeer dust that you sprinkle on your yard on Christmas Eve to attract all the reindeer to your house. And we're going to do some face painting, and we're going to have a really fun Elfie station where the kids can enjoy all this fun and then kind of make some goofy, funny little photos at the end of the day as they're getting ready to go. So I encourage all of y'all to come out, bring the kids, bring the nieces and nephews, bring the grandkids if you can. We expect a huge crowd and beautiful weather for this. And the best part is it's free. There's absolutely no cost for you to attend either of these events, but it's a very unique opportunity for people in Little Rock to do this with the reindeer at no cost.
Well, you know, there was a few years back when the fire truck broke down, so I hope you'll have the reindeers close by in case you need to pull us the rest of the way through the parade.
Fly you through.
That's why you have a different antique fire truck this year. It's tried and tested, so we should be good.
Okay, very good.
So you should have a flyer inside your lovely stockings that were distributed a few minutes ago that gives you a little bit more information about the parade and the Reindeer on the River event this weekend. So again, the parade starts at 3 o'clock at 2nd and Broadway on Saturday. Please come and participate in the parade. It's always fun for the citizens of Little Rock and the surrounding area to see their community leaders. And if you could just arrive at 2:30, 2:45 to board that and wave and throw lots of candy, I'm sure that they will be very excited.
So for people who might watch this at home, at the end of the holiday parade, this is a great weekend for Little Rock. And so there's a lot of fun opportunity for celebrating the holidays. At the end of the parade, they will light the state capitol for the holiday season and do the fireworks show, which is always a great fun time. And that is coordinated very carefully to do that. But in addition to the Reindeer on the River event that is on Sunday, the Historic Arkansas Museum will be having their holiday event, and Old State House will as well. So we're hoping to encourage everybody to make a day of it in downtown Little Rock on Sunday and go to all of these things and to make a real weekend out of all these activities in Little Rock this weekend.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. I know that if Director Adcock were here, she would want me to also mention on Sunday that the annual Toys for Tots parade is going to be going on. This is where literally almost 1,000, I suspect, if not more, people on motorcycles bring Toys for Tots and work with our military reservists to bring toys to children that are going to be available for children. And it'll start out at Rodney's Cycle Shop out on Interstate 30 off of University and the access road there, and I-30. And we'll end up, where does it end up now? We moved it over to the Metro, to the Metroplex. In any event, I know that other board members have joined and gotten on the back of a motorcycle and participated in that, and it's a good event as well. So if anybody's interested, I'll be happy to take your names and make sure that there's a ride for you. Scott Wallace, some of you may know, is the organizer of that, and I'm sure that he'll find a place for everybody to ride on if they would like to. Yeah. Okay. Well, also then, if you'll see on your agenda, we will have a presentation next week from the Mexican consulate, and also about the driving laws in Spanish that we do on a regular basis, so if you'll make note of that. We can now turn on to the agenda. We've got 3 additions, 1 resolution and 2 ordinances. If there's no objection, we'll add those to our grouped items. Any objections? Hearing none, we'll go ahead, Madam Clerk, and put those on the consent agenda, or on the grouped item, excuse me, the resolution, it can go on the consent agenda. Is that all right with everyone on M1? To put that on the consent agenda, that has to do with the structure of the former government that Director Campiers talked about last week? Okay, all right, no objection, we'll put that on the consent agenda, and we'll put the other two ordinances on our grouped items. If you'll now turn to the next page and look at the consent agenda, items 1 through 6, and let me ask if there's any questions about any of those from anyone. Director Wright, would you hit your button again? I think this thing was turned off. Okay, if you would go ahead, please.
Mayor, I'd like Mr. Moore to explain resolution number 2. And what exactly is this property?
Sure. Director Wright, this is the cell tower at West Central, and I'll let Mr. Carpenter discuss the parameters.
Director Wright, it is a cell tower that was there prior to the time that the city obtained title to the property. The lease has expired, and this is a new lease between the city as the owner of the property and SBA Properties. The initial term is for 5 years. It allows for 5 additional 5-year terms. The rental for the first 5 years is $1,500 a month.
And where does that money go?
Right now, that money would go to the
Rosedale Optimist?
Rosedale Optimist Club. I couldn't remember if it was Optimist or something else, but yes.
Okay. So we don't get any of it?
Not of the rentals right now.
Not of the what?
Rentals. The rental of the land.
I thought we were talking about the tower.
Well, they are renting land from us for the placement of the tower. So that's what the lease payments.
So the lease is for the tower?
It's for the land upon which the tower is located.
But we don't get any of it?
We have to honor the provision in the donation that as long as the Optimist Club exists, they would get the tower rentals.
Okay. Is this the same amount, or this is an increase?
This is an increase from the original amount.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Director Wyrick, you're next, please.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, item 3, apologize for my voice. It's terrible, I know. Item 3, the contract for Life Skills for Youth, is that a new contract or is that an extension of the one that they already have?
Let me ask Ms. Doucette to come forward, and the Director of Community Programs.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, board members. This particular one would be a new one for Life Skills for Youth. It's the one that was closed, that in his image was closed down. This is that location.
Okay. Do you know how many children will be covered under this particular contract?
Yes, ma'am, 30.
30 kids. Okay. And it's $75,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions on the resolutions. Yes.
Director Adcock did call earlier and said that she would like to keep 3 and 4 separate because she had questions.
All right. Madam Clerk, if we'll just make those changes, please. All right, very good. Now we can now move on to the planning and development items 7 through 12. And let me ask you if there's any questions on any of those. I believe they're all
they're
supported by the Planning Commission's approvals and the staff recommendation of approval. Yes, Mr. Moore.
Her same request was dealing with item 12 to have that separate.
All right. Request by Director Adcock to hold item 12 separately. Director Wyrick, you're recognized.
I would like to hold item 8 separately in the event that there's someone that wants to speak or have questions about that one. That's an event center on Stagecoach Road as well.
Is that which item?
It's item 8.
Item 8. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
we've
hold
had-
item 8 separately as well.
We've had 3 or 4 meetings in Southwest, but, and it's been well received, but I just want to make sure that, there's not someone out there that has an issue or has questions. with
Okay,
it.
we can always move it back if
Right.
you would like.
Thank you.
Director Wright, you're recognized, please.
Mr. Moore, regarding 18, 19, 20.
We're not quite there yet.
Oh, I can't move on?
1 through 12.
Oh, okay.
If there are no other questions on those, we'll hold those two separately. And now we can move to items 13 through 25. Let me mention before we begin that items 18 through 25 are the franchise ordinances for the smart city kiosks that we did before. Tom has mentioned that we need to do separate franchise agreements, so that's why you have those separately, but they're all identical with the exception of the specific location. So I've talked with the clerk about how we can handle that, and we can probably group those if there's no objection. There are 4 others in queue that I think will have all the information ready for by Tuesday, and there may be 4 more to add to that would be identical, only with different location addresses. So that's just a heads up to all of you on those numbers. Okay, so Director Wright, which
Yes.
number would you like?
In reference to those, Mr. Moore, I had submitted a request to have a similar display at the community center and provided you with the information, and it was just a display that would allow us to have our information displayed instead of sitting around on counters. And you were supposed to get back with me on that?
Yes, ma'am. I believe we've been doing some research, and I'll get something back to you on where we are on it.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Wyrick.
I would like to hold item 26 separate.
All right.
And Mayor, I think we had some technical issues before the board meeting, but item 17, it needs to be deferred for 2 weeks. It's 17 here.
On the, okay.
The motivation.
All right, so we'll have that as a modification then to defer that on the agenda for next week.
Since this is an agenda meeting, you can just agree that it will be off. You don't need it as a modification for the next week's
All
meeting.
right, that's fine. Madam Clerk, then let's just put this on the next agenda for the, I guess it would be for the 11th. I will note for all of you that item 16 is a duplication. It's actually a resolution, and we've already talked about it, so that'll come off. If you've got item 16 dealing with the Motorola Premier One computer-aided dispatch appropriation.
Where is it on the resolution?
Okay, are there any other questions on items 7 through 25? Any other questions? All right, we can now move on to item 27. And we will be prepared to have a discussion on the agenda for the budget on December 3rd. And there'll be information coming out to you this Friday, correct, Mr. Moore? Good. And hopefully we'll be able to have time to also take care of the appointments and reappointments on item number 28. Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Bruce, fellow board members, I want to acknowledge Chief Falk for her participation in a meeting this week. It wasn't a gathering just to have a gathering or a press conference just to have a press conference. It was to counter this whole no snitch culture. And her participation in that meeting meant a lot to the people there, because those folks who were reluctant to go to the police directly will provide another avenue to be able to share information with them and have those folks go to the police. I want to acknowledge and thank Chief Falk there. I think it meant a lot to the people at that meeting, the people in the community. And I think Bruce and Mayor, that goes to helping improve our relationships with various parts of our community where we have really, really poor relationships. So I just want to acknowledge her and thank her for being there this past Wednesday.
Very good, yes. I saw some of the coverage, and I want to thank Chief Falk and all the police officers who were present. I don't know whether anybody received other information about that, but I know that certainly I did not receive any notice about that press conference. But if there are any in the future, if you or anyone else gets
it was a
contact on it, let us know.
So yes, sir. I think it was a last minute.
So we can show our support as well.
It was a last minute request. I want to thank her, and I want to thank one of Rachel's colleagues from the DEM Gas for being there. It was a last minute request, and she, along with two other officers, were there, and it was a really small group of people there in the audience, but I thought it was really helpful in terms of us trying to figure out ways to address this idiotic violence that we're seeing in our community. And I understand there was another homicide of an 18-year-old mayor last night that is becoming more and more problematic for me, not just as a board member, but as a resident of the city of Little Rock. So, Mayor, was a last-minute notification. I got notification around 10 or 11 o'clock, and I think Chief Falk got the same time frame. And I think she met with the city manager, and Mr. Moore gave his approval for her to participate. And I think it meant a lot to the people in that room and the people who witnessed some of the coverage. In fact, that we can kind of help bridge the gap in terms of our law enforcement officials in the various parts of our community.
Okay. Director Compierce, you're recognized, please.
Something, Bruce, this goes back to what you were talking about last week, Ken and Robert. I think Robert made a comment, Webb made a comment that the money that we have in the PIT program is not spent where the problem is. Is that, well, and I think that it would be helpful, at least for me, to have a map of Little Rock and show where the money for PIT is spent, and overlay that with a second map of where we're having the problem. And I don't know if that will help us at all, but it did bring up, as I thought about your comments and Robert's comments, we ought to know exactly where we're spending the money and where they're located, and it will help us to define whether we're spending it in areas that need the effort. My inclination is that at least we're in the right general area, maybe not the specific area, but if we can just get a map, Lance, of where the facilities are that we're funding, and then try to have some sort of thing, Chief Folks, about where we're having crime. It may be at least it'll be interesting, and it may help us define where we need to be spending money.
Director Pierce and Mayor and board members, we go through a lot of analysis, and Director Hines would, I think, echo this on where we need to address the PIT dollars. And in fact, it's one of our data portals, if we can get to it, that we actually show exactly where the programs are on a map. And so if we can't get to it here, we'll show you how to get to it. But we do. That's actually one of our data portals that Melissa Bridges has initiated, and but I think it will show when you look at the map of the city where those dollars are invested. I think he also mentioned that I think it was a figure that we were spending about $5.5 million in this area.
Well, it may be there, but I don't think that I don't know what it looks like, and I think that but if Bruce is laughing over there, I'm computer illiterate anyway, so you'd have to put it on paper and show it to me. But I think it would help if the citizens of the community know exactly where the programs are located and where we're experiencing problems.
Randy.
The second thing is I have here in my possession from Lance Levy a list of delinquent properties that who would like to be the recipient of this? Lance,
Tom, I think Tom would be the person to receive them, but Tom, you may give an update on that if you'd like. I know
that's what I said. I mean,
questions.
he said all this money's out there, and he said, what are you going to do about it? And I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. As far as so, he brought it to my office. Now I've got this list. I still don't know what to do with it. So I did bring it back. I have looked at it.
Director Compuris, this is an issue that he has championed, and we had a meeting. Vice Mayor Webb was there, and as a result of that meeting, the Housing Department put together a list of 30 properties that we were going to proceed with foreclosure on and let potential developers know that in case they were interested in any of the properties. That list has now been narrowed to 6, and the title work is being completed, and as soon as it gets to my office, we're filing foreclosure actions.
Great. I'll give you the other 150 or 200 of them.
I'd give them to housing immediately, so I just give them straight to Victor.
Okay, Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Dean, I wanted to follow up on your point with respect to the location of the programs and the problem areas of our city. I think one of the things that we're missing, and doesn't necessarily need to be new features where I used to be employed. We need to have an intermediary. We need to have a bridge between the city and the community, an agency that can minimize the politics of funding, that could actually do an independent evaluation of the programs, provide training and technical assistance, because the issue may not be the location of the programs. The issue may be the population that you're serving, and that may be a whole entirely different area. You may have programs located in the right area. They may not be providing services to the people who need it most. So essentially, they end up serving kids who are going to be okay if they weren't in those programs anyway. And in essence, create this image that what we're doing now is babysitting. And Dean Robert, he can look at this. I rarely listen to Robert, so I didn't hear what he said about what we were spending and how we were spending it. I very rarely listen to Robert. But I think that may be a whole different issue, Bruce and Mayor, whether or not we have an intermediary that we contract with that could be the bridge between the city and the community, and that intermediary could provide training, technical assistance, evaluation, independent of the city. And I think at best it would minimize the politics of the funding and who gets the dollars and where the dollars go. So I think that's a great point, Dean, in terms of how we need to have. I don't know how we're evaluating it right now, Bruce, since my agency shut down a couple of years. I don't know if we're evaluating them at all, if we're doing any kind of analysis of the population that we're serving, the services that we're providing. I don't know.
Directors, we are, but just from a standpoint of that type of organization, I totally agree with you. I feel like we've lost something in not having that type of organization in place. And as you know, when the Futures was in place, it had more than just city funding. But I do think that having that type of organization to be that bridge, not only to the city but to the community, is definitely something that we miss.
Well, I commend you for recognizing that. You said that a couple of times. I think the issue the challenge for you and the city is the available funding to contract with someone to provide that whole host of services that an intermediary could provide: training, technical assistance, evaluation, best practices, and also share that kind of information with the city. So I admire you. I don't admire you. I thank you for recognizing that, and hopefully we'll be able to figure out how we can find some leverage of city funding with state, federal, or foundation funding to get that back in place. And I think that is doable and it is needed if we're going to really impact the young people that are causing all the problems in our community. That's my opinion, and please allow me the right to be wrong in my opinion, but that's what I think from the years, Bruce and Mayor, that I've done this kind of work, engaging the population that needs to be served. I think we really need to do that. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see these senseless acts of violence in our community.
You know, there's, and I think it would be good, Bruce, and we're really talking about the disconnected youth and adults that have dropped out of the system in one fashion or another. So I think the issue of job opportunities, systems to get people referred into these job opportunities, some analysis of soft skill training that's necessary. And I know there are organizations that are out there doing that now. I'm missing Mr. Moore here. I do think it'd be good to try and do an inventory of that and to talk about the services that are out there. I know we're spending money with our street folks and some other things that are doing those kind of things. I think the proper way to go about this is to, we got BMOST out there as well, which is privately funded by a nonprofit, and we're part of Cities for Service. And I would like to see I'd like to see staff prepare an inventory that's really focused on those disconnected adults, or what we called at the National League of Cities opportunity youth. And so we want to try and figure out how we can make an opportunity for them.
Yes,
so,
Mayor, they've changed that language, because at the federal level, they used to call it the same thing, and President Obama changed it from disconnected youth, opportunity youth.
Yeah.
And the only other question I have, and I promise I'm going to turn my mic off, the crisis intervention team are only working as part-time workers. I don't know, Bruce or Dana, who's making that decision, that determination, because the problems we are having are not part-time problems. But if I understand it correctly, they're part-time workers. They're not full-time workers. Is that correct, Bruce? Or Dana?
That's correct. I think their hours are pretty significant, but we'll look at that as far as how they turn into full-time if possible.
Thank you.
Director Campiris.
I promised to turn my mic off too, but the reason that I wanted to do this or ask that information is that, and it's interesting what BJ just asked about that program. We're spending $70,000 on a program for 30 kids. Now, that's important to spend it for 30 kids, but if you're talking about 6 people or 4 people that have been killed in the last 2 weeks, are we spending the money in the right place? I mean, are the programs we're spending money on right now the ones that we really need to be addressing? Lance knows about that. Dana knows about that. I don't, but that's the reason I wanted to find out where we're spending the money and where the problem is. And we're starting a new year, and I would hope we look at this again and say, maybe we don't need a $70,000 program for 30 kids for a period of time as much as those kids need it. It's not to say the program isn't good, but we've got $5.5 million, right, Bruce? Are we directing it correctly in the light of what's going on? And I'll leave that to the smart people in the room to figure that.
And many of these programs are what you might characterize as prevention programs, we give 700 youth jobs in the summertime, and that's part of the PIT money as well. So I think the reality is going to be, once we get this inventory done, is we can see whether there's a way to look and see whether these contracts are as effective as they can be for what we're dealing with, and that's people who've for one reason or another, have grown up without any respect for other people in terms of using guns to try and shoot each other. I mean, that's if they haven't learned it by that time, I don't, we're going to have to figure out a way to reach them. But ideally, we hopefully can try and reach them before they get to be that age. And I mean, that's always been the frustrating struggle in this whole area. So anyway, let's get that inventory together and the overlay, and then we can continue with that dialogue. Director Hines. Oh, I'm sorry. I double hit it. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to bring something to the voters' attention as we're starting this mayoral runoff. The Election Commission, in its infinite wisdom, failed to reserve 4 West Little Rock precincts for the runoff, and therefore there are 4 West Little Rock precincts that are being consolidated. Bruce, can we get this information up on the city's website and our public access? And I'll give the precincts. Precinct 69, which is normally First Baptist Church of Little Rock, will vote at Precinct 67, which is Temple B'nai Israel. Precinct 73, which is Parkway Place Baptist Church, will vote at Precinct 60, which is Highland Valley United Methodist Church. Precinct 76, which is also Parkway Place Baptist Church, will vote at Precinct 75, 77 at Emmanuel Baptist Church. And Precinct 74, which is normally Agape Church, will vote at Precinct 71, which is Pulaski Academy. This information just came out over the weekend, and since it impacts wards 3 and 5, or 4 and 5, we wanted to make sure we got that information out there. It's the only place in the city this has happened.
Director Richardson, you recognize, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I turned my mic off. No, for that issue. No, different issue, Dean. And my seatmate is telling me the notification. I want to echo Director Hines' point because the notification of this changes was done as recently as this weekend, and it was sent on little postcards that normally people would throw away. So, Bruce, I would echo. Especially this time of year, yeah. And so I want to echo that. And my seatmate told me that the notification was just this weekend on little bitty cars that normally you just grab it and throw it away so people would not know. And that was it, Dean. It's turned off for now. All right.
All right, well, we can probably do a special news release on that as well.
Yeah.
Make sure we get that out. All right, very good. All right, that concludes our agenda, and let me mention that the University of Arkansas at Little Rock has got their grand opening of their downtown campus at 5:15 today, so I'm going to be there, and I would encourage anyone else that would like to attend to be there as well, right there in the River Market on Clinton Avenue. Thank you.